I drive Uber on weekends. The money's good, the streets are calm, and I don't have to think much. Around 1 a.m., I got a ping from a place I don't normally take calls from. Just a quiet neighborhood, a little dark, but there was a street light near the pickup point, so it didn't seem that bad. I pulled up to the pin, empty sidewalk, nobody waiting. I was about to cancel. Then she stepped into view under the light. A woman, dark hair, face pale, and she was smiling. Not normal. Too wide, too stiff, no teeth. Just that hollow, dark space. She didn't wave, didn't even blink, just held that frozen smile. She walked to the back door and got in. I stared forward as it shut. "Good evening," I said, trying to sound normal. But just silence. Just a light rustle. I checked the mirror. No one in the back seat. Door closed. Seatbelt untouched. I turned my head. Still empty. A cold feeling ran down my spine. I put the car in drive and left. I didn't go to her drop off. Why would I? I didn't even go home. I drove to a bar where my friend was hanging out. Walked inside. Sat with him for a couple of hours. Didn't even tell him a thing. I just didn't want to be alone. And around 4 a.m., I convinced myself I just imagined it. I plugged my phone at home, tossed it to the counter, and there's a new photo. One I definitely didn't take. It was my passenger seat, shot from the back, with a shaky angle. And in the corner, just barely in frame, her face. That same stretched smile, that empty mouth, and those wide eyes. The timestamp was from when I was at the bar. Now I try not to think about that empty corner every time I drive home. A week after my cousin vanished, someone slid an envelope under my door at 3 a.m. The handwriting was his, but the message wasn't. I woke to the sound of something sliding under my front door. No knocks, no footsteps, just a soft, like paper moving across a wooden floor. First, I thought it was a flyer, or maybe someone was just pranking me. But when I picked it up, my heart sank. It was an envelope with my name on it, written in Marco's handwriting. The thing is, Marco wrote in a certain weird way, always a little crook. And this envelope and writing matched it perfectly. Too perfectly. I didn't open it right away. For a split second, it felt like whatever was inside was looking back at me. When I finally tore it open, something fell out. A photo. Marco sitting on a chair in a pitch black room. His posture was stiff, his eyes wide open, and behind him, a shadow, tall, and bent wrong. Face was smooth, like someone erased it. 4 words were written on the back. Don't look at it. The handwriting looked almost like his, but there's something wrong with it. Like someone tried copying it. I just put the photo back on my desk and I tried to sleep. At 2:17 a.m., my door creaked open. I sat up and my heart was pounding. Then I couldn't hear it from outside. It sounded like it came from inside. I turned towards the sound and I saw that the photo on my desk was gone. Only the envelope remained, but now only heavier. Inside was a second photo. The chair was empty. Marco was gone. And the shadow was inches from the camera, close enough to feel like it was staring at me. And at the back, it now says, "It knows you saw it." The warning wasn't about the photo. It was about that thing behind him. Ever since that night, every 2:17 a.m., my door opens. There's a tap in my window, and something stands just outside my vision, waiting for me to look at it again. I wasn't supposed to be the last one here. It was one of those nights where everyone stayed late. Deadlines, overtime, the usual suspects. Lights still on across the floor. Keyboards clicking. Phones buzzing quietly. Normal. Around 10, people started packing up. Jackets, goodbyes, elevator dings. Nothing strange. I remember thinking this was actually kind of comforting. Not being the first one to leave. As the night went on, it felt off. The first weird thing was the silence. You can hear movement, typical office noise, but it felt muddled, like being underwater. I heard someone laugh, loud and unhinged. It came from a far end of the floor. A guy from accounting. I didn't know his name. He was standing by the printers with hands on his knees, laughing like he heard the best joke of his life. I asked him if he was okay. He didn't answer. He just kept laughing until it turned into this sharp, breathless sound that made my stomach turn. Then he stopped, looked at me and said, "You see it too, right?" I asked him what he meant. He just blinked hard, straightened up. "Never mind," he said. Grabbed his bag, left without looking back. More people left after that, in a rush. One woman started crying at her desk, the kind that everyone hears. Full body sobbing, hands over her face. Someone tried to check. She screamed when they touched her. She just kept saying, "Don't let it know I noticed. Don't let it know I noticed. Don't let it know I noticed." That's when I started paying attention. Not looking for anything specific, just listening and trying to be aware. There was a sound somewhere between the cubicles. It wasn't coming from any desk. It felt like the room was adjusting itself. Like something was there and the space was trying to make room for it. I wanted to ask if anyone else heard it, but most are silent, like pretending not to hear it. I realized then the people who noticed were the ones breaking down. The ones who didn't, or at least those who played dumb, were fine. There were only 3 of us left. Me, a guy near the windows, and someone in the conference room. I never saw who was in there. Just heard the chair move occasionally, like they were adjusting their seat every second. The guy by the window suddenly stood up, said very calmly, "I'm not doing this." Didn't explain. Didn't grab his coat. Just walked straight for the exit. Halfway there, he just froze. Turned his head slightly, like someone whispered directly into his ear. He smiled, like he was finally let in on a joke, and went back to his desk. I didn't ask him anything. I stayed very still. Eventually, conference room went silent. No chair, no movement, just nothing. The guy by the window stopped typing, slowly closed his laptop, looked straight at me and said, "I think it prefers you now." He left. The lights didn't turn off. The elevators didn't ding. I was alone. The sound moved closer, slow and creeping, inevitable. The air felt thicker near my desk. I kept my eyes on my screen. I didn't acknowledge it. Didn't breathe too deep. I didn't want to make a sound. I heard a chair pull out behind me. Someone sat down. I didn't turn. I didn't look. A voice said, very gently, "You did good." My screen went dark, and I see a silhouette behind me. There's a cafe on my way to lunch. Big windows, bright glass that picks up anything passing by. Yesterday, I passed it like I always do. And in the reflection, I saw my hand move. A small wave. I wasn't waving. I didn't even slow down. I stopped and turned toward the window. The reflection was normal. Same posture and same angle. Nothing out of place. I told myself I'm just seeing things and kept going. Today, around the same time, I walked by again. I didn't look straight at the window. Just watch it from the side as I kept going. And again, my reflection raised its hand. Same slow wave. A soft pressure built in my ear. Light but noticeable. Like something is digging under my skin. I stopped right there on the sidewalk, turned my head, and of course, it looked exactly like me. Like nothing happened. I kept walking past the window. Just before I stepped out of the reflection, I noticed it. There was this tiny delay every time I moved. Like it was trying to catch up. On my way back to the office, I passed the cafe again. I walked slower, watched the reflection more closely. And this time, it didn't wave. But it wasn't in sync with me either. I slowed down. The reflection didn't. At least, not right away. By the time it caught up, I was already standing the way I was. Like it knew it needed to look normal again. I stood there, a little longer than I meant to. Curious, I reached out and touched the glass. Barely any pressure. That's when the reflection flickered. Not the window. My reflection. It shook. Like it was trying to hold still and failing. My hand dropped. But the reflections didn't. It moved its hand slowly and pointed. Not at the glass. At my shoulder. The smile came next. Slow. Careful. Like it was testing how much it could show. I stepped back. The reflection stayed where it was. Still pointing. Still smiling. Almost like mocking me. I didn't touch the glass again. I backed away and kept walking. My shoulders still burning with pain. I avoided windows after that. But the rest of the day went on like nothing happened. That night, my shoulder started to hurt. Right where it had pointed. I passed by the cafe again. I didn't stop. But in the corner of my vision, I saw movement. My reflection was already there. Not waving this time. just standing close to the glass, watching. The ringing spiked the moment I noticed it, sharp enough to make my hand twitch. I kept my eyes forward and walked past without slowing. Behind me, I heard a faint tap of knuckles on glass. Once. Then again. At the crosswalk later that day, a bus rolled by. Dark windows, clear reflections. I kept my head down. The ringing came back anyway, stronger now, like pressure pushing outward. I glanced up just long enough to see it. Not waving. Its hand was already lifted, hovering inches from where the glass would be. Pain ran down my arm. I turned away immediately. The bus passed. The reflection was gone. But the ache stayed. Now, every window feels wrong. Like I'm standing too close to something. Every time a shoulder throbs, it feels deliberate. And I feel it smiling from beyond the window. Last Thanksgiving, I stayed at my old college friend's luxury condo, and dinner started normal, completely normal. But by the end of the night, time wasn't letting me leave. I was staying at my friend Lucas's high-rise condo while my apartment was fumigated. Expensive lobby, quiet hallways, the kind of place where people pretend everything's perfect. Thanksgiving night, and Lucas invited me to a small dinner in one of the private lounges. Just neighbors, some wine, nothing formal. The lounge looked like a hotel restaurant with glass windows, warm lighting. Everyone seemed normal, polite, and even friendly. Dinner started fine, small talks, drinks, good food. And I checked my phone. 8:14 p.m. Still quite early. I kept eating and talking. No tension, no weird vibes. Later I checked again. 8:14 p.m. Same minute. Exact. So I restarted my phone. Still 8:14. I whispered to Lucas, what time is it? He checked his watch. 8:15. He said casually. But the room felt dimmer. Like the lights dropped one level without anyone touching them. I looked out the window and the city was fine. Lights everywhere. But the cars weren't moving. Not creeping, just stuck, frozen. When I blinked, their positions changed. They weren't driving. It just felt that they were just rearranged. The background jazz wasn't looping anymore. It was repeating the same 10 seconds, over and over. Then people started shifting. A woman who had been across the table was suddenly beside me. A guy who'd gone for seconds was suddenly behind me. No footsteps, no movement, just snapping to new positions. I whispered, "Lucas, are you seeing this?" He smiled too quickly. "Relax. Don't draw attention." "Attention to what?" I whispered. I leaned closer, voice low. "You weren't supposed to be here tonight. Sometimes the building holds people." Before I could respond, the lounge blinked. Everything vanished. Empty room, no guests, no lights, just me in the dark. Then everything returned, perfectly reset. Everyone smiling like nothing happened. Then Lucas whispered, "That was a shift. Go, now." I stood up and walked calmly out of the lounge. And the moment the door closed, the sound inside cut out completely. Like the room stopped existing. My phone lit up. 11:42 p.m. Everything outside was normal. Elevators, city noise, time. I didn't go back to the condo, and I checked into a hotel. The next morning, I reached for my phone and froze. The lock screen wasn't showing the time. It showed a calendar alert. Thanksgiving dinner, 8:14 p.m. Repeats daily. So I deleted it, and it reappeared instantly. I changed the phone's date. It shifted back to 8:14 p.m. Then I noticed the wallpaper wasn't mine. It was the view from the lounge window. Frozen cars, frozen street, frozen city. I never took that picture. Tonight, at exactly 8:14 p.m., the lights in my hotel room flickered. Just once. Long enough for the wallpaper to move one frame forward. I don't think I escaped that night. I think I paused it. And sooner or later, it's going to unpause me too. I lived in this place for 2 years, long enough to know everyone. That's why it scared me when people I thought I knew all changed at the same time. I lived out here a while, long enough to know the usual rhythm. Who walks their dog and at what time, who waves from their porch, who leaves early for work. Everything felt familiar, predictable, safe. That's why the shift was so jarring. It started one afternoon when I came back from town. Mrs. Cartwright, who's always been warm, chatty, normal, was standing at her fence. But this time, she didn't wave back, didn't call out. She just smiled. A wide smile. "We're glad you're here," she said. Not back, not home. Just those words. "We're glad you're here." I just laughed awkwardly and headed inside. But something about her tone stuck with me. The next day, I ran into a couple of neighbors near the mailbox. People I've had dozens of conversations with. But the moment I stepped out, they both stopped mid-conversation and turned toward me at the same exact pace. Same head tilt, same long blink, same stretched smile. "We're glad you're here," they said together. Over the next few days, things escalated fast. Packages started appearing on my porch. Items I didn't even order. Candles, canned food, fruits and vegetables. Sometimes I see them. People dropping by and placing them there. Every time I try to return something back, they just smile and say, "We're glad you're here." Same tone, same smile, every time. Then one evening when I got home, there were 6 neighbors standing in my yard. These aren't strangers. These are people I've talked to for years. People I've shared meals with. People who ask about my work, my weekends, my life. But that's gone now. They were just standing, perfectly arranged, like lining up for a photograph. Just waiting. The second I pulled in, all 6 turned toward my car in perfect sync, like a flock of birds shifting at once. Mrs. Cartwright stepped forward first, still smiling. "We've all been talking," she said. "You've proven yourself. You've stayed, and now it's time." I asked, "Time for what?" She didn't answer. Instead, all of them turned, smoothly, simultaneously, and began walking toward my back porch, like they practiced it or something. I followed them into my house because, honestly, I didn't want to find out what would happen if I didn't. They guided me to my kitchen table. The chairs were arranged like they've been waiting for me. Mrs. Cartwright gestured to the head of the table. "Sit," she said warmly. "You've been here long enough. You belong now." I told her no, that I didn't understand, that I didn't agree to anything. Their smiles didn't break. Same expression, same posture, same steady breathing. Then, all at once, everyone took one step closer to me. I froze. They took another step. I didn't have to wait for a third one. I shoved past them, ran through the back door, and sprinted to my car, and I drove until I hit the next town. I've been in this motel since yesterday, and last night, around 3 a.m., someone slid a note under my door. Inside was one line, written in neat, familiar handwriting. "We're glad you're here." My mom called to say she was cleaning out the house. It's her New Year thing. Closets, boxes, stuff that had been sitting untouched for years. She asked if I wanted to come by before she threw everything out. I said yes right away. When I got there, everything she'd pulled was stacked in the living room. Old clothes, school papers, and toys I didn't remember keeping. And one cardboard box. It was heavy. Inside were VHS tapes. Dozens of them. No cases, just black plastic. Handwritten labels. I laughed when I saw them. This brings back memories. I took the box home. I just set up a retro corner in my room. CRT TV, old consoles. I still had a VCR too. Picked it up at a thrift store a while back, and it was working. I put the first tape in without checking the label. It was just static at first. Then, a living room I recognized. My 7th birthday. Paper hats, a tacky cake with superheroes on top. My dad behind the camera laughing. I watched the whole thing. The tapes after that were the same. Family stuff, first bike, beach trip, Christmas mornings, normal and really comforting. I started stacking the watch tapes on the floor beside me. Near the bottom of the box, I found a couple that didn't match the rest. It was just labeled with one word: test. Different handwriting. I almost put it back, but curiosity got the better of me. The tape started playing. No static. A room I didn't recognize. Bare walls. A single chair. The camera was sat down in a certain angle. Stable. Intentional. Someone was sitting in the chair. Their hands were tied. They were looking at the camera, almost asking for help. My dad stepped into frame. Younger than I remembered. He crouched to eye level with the person. "You can talk," he said. "They won't hear you." I stopped breathing. The person in the chair started crying. I shut the VCR off out of reflex. Sat there in front of the TV. I told myself it was fake. Some kind of sick joke. A prank. I picked the remote back up and turned it on again. There were more. Different rooms. Different people. Always the same setup. Chair, camera, and my dad. Sometimes he talked to them. Sometimes he talked to the camera itself. What to check first. What mistakes not to make. What to do. What to avoid. He never raised his voice. Always in command. At one point, he looked straight into the lens. Then he stopped the recording. I ejected the tape. My hands were shaking too badly to put it back in the box. I called my mom. She didn't answer. So I sent her a message. "Did you watch the tapes before giving them to me?" No reply. I didn't sleep. How could I? In the morning, my mom finally sent a message. "Those tapes were your dad's. I never watched them. I thought they were fishing trips." I went back to my room after that. I didn't open the box again. I didn't need to. I knew what was in it. I told myself I was done with the tapes. That whatever my dad had been doing was finished. That it had nothing to do with me. Sometimes, I still catch myself thinking about the checklist. But how calm he sounded. Of how sure of himself. I kept the box tucked away in the corner of my room. Just thinking about it makes me sick. I noticed her first time in the morning. I was in my kitchen with a mug of coffee, killing time before my first class, looking out the window the way I usually do. One of the windows across the street was open. She stood there, wearing a red cardigan and a black beret. We locked eyes. Lasted probably a second, maybe less. Just long enough to be familiar. She smiled and gave a small wave. I waved back. Then she stepped away from the window. I finished my coffee and left. I saw her again later that day. I was at the grocery store, halfway down the aisle, when I noticed the red cardigan a few steps ahead of me. She was comparing two boxes, holding one in each hand. She looked over her shoulder and smiled when she saw me. I nodded and that was it. At the library, she was sitting at a table near the windows. Same clothes, same calm look. When I packed my things, she glanced up from her book and gave a short wave. I just waved back without thinking. I had a doctor's appointment that evening. I sat down in the waiting room, checked my phone, looked up, and she was there again, sitting across from me, filling out a form. She smiled. I smiled back, awkwardly. I told myself it was just coincidence. We were in the same neighborhood. These things happen. That night, I looked out of my window again. She was back in the building across the street. Not the same window as before. She was a few floors down, standing near the corner of a different room. She smiled and waved. I hesitated but waved back. The next night she was higher up. Different window, same building. She waved and I didn't. She held the wave a second longer than before, then dropped her hand. I tried not to look out the window. Every night that I did, she appeared in a different one. Sometimes on higher floor, sometimes lower. Other times closer to the center of the building. Sometimes at the far end. Every time I looked, she was always somewhere else. During the day, I kept seeing her too. At bus stops, outside a cafe near campus, once across the street when I came out of a building. She never approached me. We never spoke. She just smiles whenever our eyes meet. I stopped waving back altogether. And she didn't seem bothered by that. One night, I noticed someone else in one of the windows across the street. A man stood there, talking on his phone. He laughed at something, turned away and pulled the curtains. The next night, that window stayed dark. She was standing 2 floors above it, still waving. I started closing my blinds before it got dark. That helped. A little. At least I didn't have to see which window she was in. A few days later, I passed the building across the street on my way to class. I slowed down and looked up. I didn't see her. I felt relieved. I left the blinds closed as usual. I was about to go to sleep when I noticed a shadow on my window, tall enough to be a person. Just there. Something tapped the glass. Light and careful. I didn't move. The tapping came again. A little louder this time. I stepped further back. The next sound wasn't tapping. It was a bang. The blinds shook. Another bang. Then another. The shadow wasn't moving. It didn't stop. I live in the suburbs. Quiet street, same houses, same people. Trash night is the same every week. The old man 2 houses down stops me one night when I'm taking out my trash. He says it's getting harder for him. Says his hands aren't what they used to be. He's already holding a bag, barely lifting it off the ground. He politely asked me if I could take it for him. I say sure. Grab it. It's heavier than expected. That exchange becomes routine. If he sees me outside on trash night, he comes over, asks me to help him out. The first few times it's just trash. Food containers, paper towels, old mail. One night, the bag tears when I picked it up. Something drops onto the driveway. I sigh and crouch down to grab it. I see birds. 2 of them. Small. The bodies were twisted. One wing bent back under itself. I didn't move. I just told myself it's nothing. Kids. A car. Things like that happen. I wrapped them back up and tied the bag tighter. I didn't say anything. A few nights later, there was a cat inside. Shelby. I recognized her right away. I used to leave food out for her in my driveway. I freeze with the bag in my hands. For a second, I thought about checking what's inside, just to be sure. I couldn't do it. I just tied it tighter instead. I didn't want to look inside again. The next week, he hands me a bag with both hands. It wasn't as heavy as I expected. When he carried it, the bottom gives out. Something drops on the driveway. At first I thought it was just a piece of clothing. A sleeve. I crouched down to see what it is. I see someone's hand. Fingers curled slightly inward. I didn't touch it. There was blood all over. There was also a chunk of flesh bitten out. Stand up slowly. The old man was watching from his porch. He just nods at me. I tie the bag shut. I didn't say anything. One night, he was already outside my house, waiting, holding 2 bags. I didn't take them. I told him I was busy. He just nods. The next trash night, I didn't go outside. Turned my lights off. There was still trash in my kitchen. And I hear footsteps in the front of my house. No knocks. When I look out the window, he was on his porch, facing my house, already looking at me. He waves his hands. I close the curtain. I don't know what he'll ask me to throw out next. I stopped by a convenience store after work, just a quick run-in. Nothing special. The parking was half lit, the kind of place that feels empty, even with cars around. I came out with a drink, walked to my car and opened the door. That's when I heard something. Not footsteps, just a scraping sound under one of the parked cars across me. Like skin dragging on pavement. I leaned a little to look. At first I thought it was a dog. But the shape was too big. Too long, too human. There was someone under the car. About the size of a person. But their body was contorted in a way that didn't look possible. It wasn't lying flat, it was hanging from the undercarriage. Upside down. Back pressed to the frame. Arms and legs dangling like they forgot how joints were supposed to work. The head was tilted so far back it didn't even look right at all. And its eyes were wide open. And for a second, it looked right at me. I froze. It let out a sound, a low broken bellow, like someone trying to breathe with a crushed chest. Then it twisted into a screeching noise that shook in its throat. It was loud, but it didn't sound human. And then it moved. Not slow, not a crawl. It sprinted. Still upside down, hands and feet hitting the pavement the wrong way as it ran straight at me. Its body scraped along the ground, this sharp, grinding sound following it. I stepped back. My hands wouldn't work. I dropped my drink. But under the next car, then the next. Each one shook slightly, like something heavy slammed into the frame. It stopped under the car right beside me. I didn't breathe. Didn't blink. I just stared at the shadow under my door. And then everything went still. I kept my eyes on the ground as I backed toward my car. Got in, locked the doors, and I drove straight home. Hands shaking the whole way. I kept checking the mirrors, half expecting to see something running behind me in all fours, or all eights, or however many limbs I was using. When I finally pulled into my parking spot, I didn't even grab my stuff. I just got out and walked towards my apartment. I reached my door and I slipped the key into the lock. And that's when I felt it. Something shifting behind me. Wasn't touching me, it was just there. I turned my head just a little. As its face was right there. Just from mine. Eyes wide open. Staring straight at me. I lived in this apartment for about 3 years now. So, I know that Mark wasn't there before. I noticed it one evening while watching TV. Just a dark patch on the wall across the couch. It was around the size of a quarter, but dark enough that it stood out against the paint. Wasn't sure if it was dirt or whatever. I tried scratching it with my nails, but that didn't work. So I grabbed a rag and some cleaner. I wiped the area for about a minute or two. When I wiped it down with a clean cloth, the mark was still there. Exactly the same. The next night, I noticed something else. From where I was sitting on the couch, the stain looked like a face. Two dark spots resembling eyes, and a lighter spot for the rest of the face. When I stood up and walked closer, it disappeared. Just the stain again. I told a couple of friends about it. They just laughed and said it was pareidolia. Seeing faces more than any. One of them even sat down on the couch to check. He looked at the wall for a few seconds and said, "Yeah, no, I kinda see it." That didn't make me feel any better. After that, I started noticing it more. I feel drawn to it. I know it's there, so I just can't stop looking at it. Some nights, I can't make out the face, just a vague outline. Other nights, it was clear and vivid. The eyes are deeper. The mouth part is defined. One night, I took a picture of it. The picture on my phone was so clear. You can see the details of it. But when I stood up and walked over to check it, it was just a small mark. It didn't sit well with me, so I decided to cover it up. I took a photo from the hallway and hung it over the spot. I guess problem solved. But the frame kept falling. Not immediately. Usually a few hours later. Sometimes in the middle of the night. I checked the hook. It was tight. I tried a different nail. Changed it to canvas painting so it wouldn't break easily. Same thing. After the 5th time it fell over, I just gave up. So I thought of painting over it. I rolled a fresh coat right over the stain. When it dried, the wall completely clean again. For 2 days, I didn't notice anything. No marks, no faces, just a plain wall. I sat down on the couch, turned on the TV, and from that same spot, I saw it. The mark was back, right through the fresh paint. The shape was clearer now. The eyes were darker. The mouth had more detail. And once you saw the face, you couldn't stop seeing it. I came home late from work. Before I could turn on the lights, something caught my eye. The living room was dark, but I could still see the wall across the couch. Then, my eyes adjusted. The mark was no longer in the wall. In place of it was a figure. It was tall and slender. It was standing like it was waiting for something.